All right, in today's video, I'm going to be doing my predictions for the Scenic City Invitational LAN, being hosted by UT Chattanooga up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it's happening this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So this is kind of different from the content I've been doing recently, just because I haven't had the chance to do another predictions video. And finally, we've got the first really major event of the semester. So 2 thumbs up for me. Let's get to predicting. This is a 20-team LAN, 4 groups of 5 teams each, and you can see them up there. Those are the groups. I'll be predicting who gets out of groups and in what echelon of their final group standings, and I'll run through and do the entire bracket. So let's get into predicting. I'll start with Group A. This is a pretty stacked LAN. I think the top 10 teams are all fairly competitive when it comes to top 32 standing in the CRL space. And Group A is the most stacked, I think, when it comes to who has the best potential to win the group and who might get left in that third place spot. I think it's obviously a 3-horse race between Cumberland, ETSU, and George Mason. And honestly, I think I predict a loss for each of them. I'll start with the easy stuff. I think UTC will make it in 4th place. I think Kentucky will fall in 5th. I think I just back the homeland power for UTC over the Wildcats of Kentucky here. But with Cumberland, ETSU, and George Mason, I think they all lose to each other. I think they all trade losses, and it comes down to game differential at the end of the group. And unfortunately, you know what? Actually, I'm going to say ETSU tops the group. I think Cumberland comes in 2nd, and I think George Mason is left outside looking in. I think it comes down to game differential. I'm not saying ETSU beats George Mason and Cumberland. I think they trade wins with each other, but I'll say game diff makes it a little bit weird and gives us some wilder matchups maybe when it comes to bracket play. But Group B, I'll make up for the chaos I predicted in the first group with just predicting right along seeding lines. I don't foresee this group being crazy outside of maybe a banger Georgia State Clemson match. This played on my stream on Tuesday Night Lights this week, and Georgia State handled Clemson, so I figure that will be the case again on LAN. But of all the series, I think that one might get the wildest, and it's probably for elimination, so that makes the most sense. Next group, this one is interesting to me because UTK Retirement Home, this is Taibu, Shaka, and Jobro, are a complete wild card, and we've already got a head-to-head this season of St. Edward's and Kennesaw State, and it went to 7. So genuinely, I don't know how Group C is going to shake out. This is the most unpredictable group of the 4 to me. I'm going to say St. Edward's comes out on top. I think they've really been grinding hard lately, and I think they might catch Kennesaw State in another long series, but I think they catch them. And the UTK Retirement Home, I could see a world in which they take a series off of St. Edward's and Kennesaw State, but I don't think I back their form right now. They played on Tuesday Night Lights and looked okay against Leslie University. And went to Game 7, they ended up losing there, but there were a couple of blowout losses where UTK Retirement Home did not look great. So I think they come in 3rd, definitely above the UTK or Kennesaw State B team, which for the record, this is not the official Tennessee B team. I forget who it is. I think it's Jeezy and then a couple of other UTK players. So I think they come in 5th, and Kennesaw State gets out to bracket play. And then over in Group D, this is where I'll pick my potentially biggest upset. So Akron Glue is the name that I think we colloquially called them Akron Glue, and so that's why it's on this sheet. But it is Melio, Patty, and Bullseye playing with each other on LAN, and so it's the Akron Gold Blue combination. So I think Indiana Tech comes out on top, but I think obviously Akron is a close second. They still make it to the upper bracket of playoffs. But then Huntingdon, Syracuse, and Georgia as the bottom three. Unfortunately for the Bulldogs, I think they're the odd team out here. Syracuse, this is not the Syracuse A team. This is Gavilan, Nano, and Aquasteer, if memory serves. And so I think their series against Huntingdon will determine the third, fourth standing and the final seeding. I don't think it'll determine top two or elimination, but should be a pretty good series. And I think I'm going to pick Huntingdon. They've had decent form lately. Some rough game 5 losses to Kennesaw State teams, and outside of that, they've had some decent results. So on LAN, I want to see them do well. It's my former school, so I'm going to pick them over Syracuse here, but ultimately it really doesn't matter all that much, because they still make it to lowers, and this is the bracket that we're given here. And so my ETSU actually topping the group, if that does end up being the case, will give them a much better matchup, because that's the difference between Concord and Cumberland. It's not Cumberland, Bruton Parker for them. Concord and Bruton Parker. So first place in Group A, I mean, it just heightens the battle in that group. I mean, that is an absolute bloodbath. I can't wait for it. As you can see, there are several of these series on the A stream, so the TOs realized it as well. But I say ETSU tops it, and that's massive for them, because it gives them a matchup against Bruton Parker that they recently won in the SEL tier assignment of earlier this week. ETSU beat Bruton Parker in 5, and I think they keep that going. I think they beat Bruton Parker here again. Indiana Tech versus Kennesaw State. This is a curious one to me, because on one hand, you've got the legend Kronovi playing on LAN with Flitz and TNT, who have tons of LAN experience. And on the other hand, Indiana Tech, who don't have much, if any, LAN experience as a lineup, outside of maybe Bluey playing Great Lakes LANs and maybe a couple others. And so, like, on paper, this is absolutely Kennesaw State's series to lose. And Kronovi did tell me that when he was playing that show match against St. Edwards, that he was nervous. So nerves aren't a complete non-factor for Kennesaw State. But I think here against Indiana Tech, they still find a way to get the win and advance to the winners semis. And then Concord versus Cumberland. I mean, Concord, I have full faith in on LAN. They're a proven quantity. They just won CECC. They won CRL last season, or last fall as well. They're the best team in the nation at the moment. And I say nation, including Canada as well. The best team in North American CRL is how I should phrase it. So I back them here, and you'll find that I back them largely in this event as well. But then St. Edwards versus Akron Glue. Sorry, St. Edwards, been on a good grind, but you can't pick against Patty on LAN. Straight up. You really can't, unless they're playing Concord, in which I will pick against them, because that was the head-to-head in the CECC Grand Finals, that Concord straight up told me after that they saw they were playing Akron, and they weren't nervous at all. They said if it was Northwood, maybe they would have been nervous, but because it was Akron, they weren't phased. So Concord, I back there. And then Kennesaw State versus ETSU is a bit of a toss-up. And on the fly, I don't have an immediate prediction, and these predictions are on the fly, by the way. I did a little bit of prep leading into this, but this is largely my opinion just in the moment. So, Kennesaw State and ETSU. I'm going to have a think about that, and we're going to go down to the lower bracket and come back to that matchup. But George Mason and Georgia State here. Easy pick, George Mason. KSUB and Huntingdon. KSUB is like 3-0 or 4-0 against Huntingdon in like the last 3 weeks. So I got to pick them here on LAN. Sorry, Hawks. And then Cumberland Academy, UTC. No contest there. Syracuse, UTK shouldn't be a contest. Probably will end up being a good series, but UTK has no business losing to that Syracuse team. Sorry, Gavilan. And then, oh man, I have to go back and kind of calculate who's going where. Okay, match 4 goes there. Match 3 goes there. Match 2 goes there. And match 1 goes there. Bruton Parker, UTK. Oh, I want the UTK dream run, because I love I love this team. They're friends of mine in the scene, but Bruton Parker is the team that actually is playing for something this season. They actually have a program behind them. They've got plenty of LAN experience, which both teams do, but Bruton Parker, they get the win. And here, Indiana Tech shouldn't have an issue with Cumberland Academy, who have been in decent form lately, but I don't think they're in the sort of form that could upset Indiana Tech on LAN, especially with a warm-up series for both teams. Yeah, they both have played already with this schedule. And then I'm not even doing analysis for that one. St. Edward's versus George Mason. This is spicy because it's Memory versus Nolly on LAN, and it should be a pretty even matchup. I don't really know the LAN experience of George Mason as a team. Memory obviously has plenty of coaching experience, but George Mason's a pretty big wild card. With Memory being at LAN, we haven't gotten to really see him play with Krasix and Kinset just yet. So I'm going to go with the known quantity of St. Edward's, but this is something that's I might look back on and say, okay, maybe I should have gone George Mason, depending on their form on Friday. But this is pre-recorded and obviously before Friday because group results haven't happened yet. But still, pre-recorded. I don't know what George Mason's going to look like. Cumberland, though, shouldn't have an issue with St. Edward's. And then Indiana Tech versus Bruton Parker. I got to back the Indiana Tech boys. They are, I don't know, they're a fun team to watch right now. And BPC have been struggling a tad. They've got losses to ETSU. They looked a little skittish against a little bit Christian in Nace. And off the top of my head, I can't remember any other results for BPCU that are glaring, but then the crack gaming tournament, and I can look this up because I've got the tab right next to me. They just lost to Akron Gold, not Akron Blue, but Akron Gold, and that was in game 5, but it's still not a good loss for the BPCU boys. So I think I'll take Indiana Tech here. I think they're I just think they are playing a better version of Rocket League at the moment. And then now I have to make a final decision on ETSU and Kennesaw State, don't I? I'm going to go for the entertainment pick here. Kennesaw State, I think they can beat ETSU. I think overall, East Tennessee State looks better at the moment. But, man, wouldn't it be awesome to watch Kronovi come out on Saturday and go 2-0? Like that would be so cool. And they've got good LAN experience as well, which you can use to say maybe they'll be a bit more comfortable early on. It's a best of 5 in upper semis. So I'll take Kennesaw State there, and then let's see, it reverses back. So we'll go top down. So we got Akron Glue versus Indiana Tech, and I'm going Indiana Tech. I like I said, I like their form, and I know I said I can't bet against Patty on LAN, but that'll be a long day for them. I mean, 1 p.m. or 1:45, depending on the time, and then you have to wait 3 hours potentially until you play again. So Indiana Tech they'll be warmer and maybe hungrier. Plus, it's not the full Akron lineup, so that could affect Akron. I don't know if it will because Melio still slots in quite nicely with Patty and Bullseye, but either way, that will be a banger series. I'm picking the upset. Why not? Do it for content. Cumberland and East Tennessee State. Actually, it was a 3-1 earlier in the week. ETSU did beat Cumberland in a head-to-head. I'm gonna pick the double upset. I'm gonna do it. Sorry, Cumberland. I respect you boys, and I'm sure you'll have your LAN moment later in the semester. But this is a LAN of the underdogs, setting the tone for the fall season. And now we've got our top 4. Kennesaw State, Concord, East Tennessee State, and Indiana Tech. All top 20 teams in my eyes. And this is where the best of 7s begin, mostly. I'm picking Concord there. That's easy. They're going through. I don't think they'll have too many close shaves in the upper bracket. I really back Concord here. But on the 28th, you got to get done before CRL. That's the trick on Sunday. So we're going to get a little pressed for time. These guys have CRL in the back of their minds. All 4 of these teams will. And so East Tennessee State versus Indiana Tech. I'm going to keep the Cinderella run going. ETSU have 2/3 of their team being French. And that tends to help you on LAN. Kasai and Faris are demons, and I can only imagine that'll translate to LAN. And then they play Kennesaw State, which I think I'm gonna keep the Cinderella story going for ETSU. No Cronovian Grands, sadly, and ETSU versus Concord. I think whoever Concord ends up playing, unless Cumberland does make it to Grands. Man, I don't know if anyone can actually really give Concord a run for their money. They'll have a game advantage. They've got LAN wins out the wazoo, big tournament wins under their belts. I think Concord are the heavy favorites in this LAN, despite how stacked the top 10 are, which is awesome. I am elated that this is the sort of LAN we are getting in September of the fall semester, like to really set the tone for CRL, for BBB, for DreamHack, for the rest of the fall season. It's going to be hype. And it's happening in Chattanooga this weekend. The Saturday and Sunday matches will happen in front of a crowd at Chattanooga Comic Con, which is absolutely dope. I'll be there. Taquito will be there. TJ will be there. McMaster and Nutty are the other casters working it. It's going to be a great event. So make sure you tune in. Follow my socials to help keep up with it. I'll be tweeting as much as I can while I'm there. And then on Friday night, after the group stage wraps up, TJ and I are doing an episode of Collegiate Exclusive. And I have to imagine we'll have some special guests that night. So a lot of content to come out of the Scenic City Invitational LAN, but those are my predictions. Concord wins the whole thing, and I don't think that's too controversial a pick. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to YouTube content, and I'll see you in the next video. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Tune in this weekend. I'll see you there.